Amaru, Bishamonten, Mangala. These are but a handful of the deities associated with the title of God of War. But in our minds, there is only one God of War, and his name is Kratos. That's right, we're discussing the series that convinced a generation of gamers that Kratos' story was always a part of Greek mythology. We share our thoughts on why the murderous, ash-bathed heathen of Sparta deserves both your love and your sympathy, while he rips through the Grecian gods of legend in a tale of revenge as old as time. And yes, we also talk about all the banging he does along the way. Character building, am I right? We'll be back at the end of the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Obsessive Compulsive Gamer Podcast. I'm Mike Prime, and today we're going to be talking about the epic God of War series. First thing you'll probably notice is that I'm doing the intro today, and that's because I am, for the first time, hosting a podcast on my own, taking over for Bobby. And though I might seem kind of confident, I am in fact scared out of my mind, so bear with me. So we got returning guests on this podcast. I'll introduce Mike B first. He's been on
everybody.
Many podcasts. I don't even know all of them, to be honest with you, so I can't list them. So we also got, of course, Bobby, who she lives.
What's
El
up, guys?
Presidente. And Frank, aka War Was Begun.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So this is, everyone here has played God of War. It is probably one of the most popular series on PlayStation. And I guess we'll just kick it off by just figuring out what games each of you have played. And, we'll start with Mike, but anyone can jump in, of course.
Oh, I was going to say, has everybody played all of them?
No,
there's some I haven't played.
Okay, I've played through all of them, and there's also a mobile one that was a long time ago on those, like with the Androids. I think I had a what do you call it, a touch back then, a My Touch phone, and yeah, there was a game called God of War Betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that was the side-scrolling one, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Was
and
that
it was I don't know if it's canon though, but it takes place,
I
believe,
is.
after two or something like that.
No, it takes place in between Ghost of Sparta and 2.
Ghost and Spartan 2? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. I know it's between something with 2 and something else, but yeah, I remember playing it. It sucked anyway, but...
So I've played a majority of the ones. Like, I haven't played Betrayal, but okay, so I've played the main trilogy, God of War 1, 2, and 3, right? I just recently started playing the God of War 2018 because I want to brush up for this podcast. I started playing Ascension this week as well, but I have not finished it. I've played Chains of Olympus, but not finished it. I've never played Ghost of Sparta, and I've never played Betrayal. And am I missing one? What do I think I'm missing one? Nope, that's it.
No, that's it.
That's it, yeah. So that's my experience with God of War.
You, Frank?
I played the first two. Let's see, I played both PSP games, so Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta. I did play 3, never finished 3. I got most of the way through it, but I got stuck at Hera's Garden. And I don't remember why I had stopped playing it. It was like just during one of those times where I was either moving or starting another game, and I just never went back to it. But I do have God of War 2018. I haven't popped it open yet though. I still need to go back and finish God of War 3. And I never played Betrayal because I still don't like supporting mobile gaming because it's popular enough and most of those games are garbage. So,
well, surprisingly, Betrayal got a lot of favorable reviews. Now, I don't know how it would hold up today because that game came out 2007, but it got a lot of favorable reviews at the time. So it's got an interesting history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and the funny thing is, considering its place on the timeline, like it was several years after 2, wasn't it?
No. Again, it took place between Ghost of Sparta and 2.
No, I'm sorry. That's what it was. Is that Ghost of Sparta? Even though it takes place between 1 and 2, that one came out a lot later in the life of the series.
You mean Ghost of Sparta came out later?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Ghost of Sparta, I know we have it on there. I think Ghost of Sparta was 2010, so there's a 3-year difference.
Yeah. Because God of War 2 came out 2007.
Ghost of Sparta was 2010.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was PSP. I never played So just to throw in my experience, I played 1 and 2 and 3. I haven't finished any of them. But I played the first 2 years after they came out. And then God of War 3 was the one that I wanted the most on PS3 when it came out. And
that's one of the games, that I bought the PS3 for. It was like that, Dante's Inferno, and Heavy Rain. Those are the 3 games that I bought a PS3 for.
Yeah, I remember it looked amazing.
Any of them at all? Like, you haven't finished a single God of War game?
I have not.
Oh, wow.
Not because... I don't know if I didn't think they were hard or anything. I just never played all the way to the end. I mean, there were some areas that I got stuck in where I couldn't really figure out what I was supposed to do.
Pandora's Temple.
Pandora, yeah. One for sure.
Some of those, between some of those puzzles, but like Pandora's Temple, are you talking about, is that the part where you just had to continuously fight hordes of monsters and they were hard to get through? Or was it a puzzle?
It was the puzzle where you had to unlock areas, like you had to drain the water. And
that's right. Because there's also like an elevator in that game where the elevator is notorious for being difficult to get through.
Yeah.
I think that's where I stopped, actually.
I finished that one before the update came out for them to make it easier.
Was that on Ascension? Was that
the Ascension elevator? Yeah.
Oh, but there's an elevator, I think, in 1 or 2. I can't remember which one. It's 1, right, where you have Pandora's Tower? And it has the elevator.
I don't remember.
Well, because I know Ascension is also notorious for being tough to beat until they release that patch. Yeah. But the other thing I want to clarify is just, since the God of War games didn't release chronologically, I just want to clear up the chronological order of the games itself. So the first game chronologically in the series is God of War Ascension. Then you have God of War Chains of Olympus. Mm-hmm. Then you have the first God of War in 2005. You have God of War Ghost of Sparta. Then you have God of War Betrayal, that mobile game we spoke of. God of War 2. And then God of War 3 is immediately after 2. And then you have basically what's God of War 4, but they just titled it God of War 2018. And then on top of that, there were 3 remasters that were released, or collections and a remaster. You have the God of War collection, which initially only consisted of God of War 1 and 2 for the PS3. It was apparently ported to the Vita, which I didn't know about. And then
I didn't know that either.
There was a God of War Origins collection, which consisted of the 2 PSP portable games. That was Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta.
I remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
that's how I first played them.
What's funny is that came out 2011, and immediately 1 year later, they just released the entire God of War saga, all 5 main games, 1, 2, 3, and then the 2 PSPs all together. And
okay, that's the one I played the PSP titles for the first time. Was that
for that one? Okay, so yeah, but they've never re-released Betrayal in any form, which is unfortunate. It would have been cool to see that one get re-released like on the Vita, even if they just slightly updated the graphics so that way you could get the experience of it. Because I don't know if there's any way to play it now. Yeah.
The graphics, man, you could play that thing on a Game Boy Advance.
Well, like the studio that developed it, I have it here. What the heck is it? Betrayal. It was a studio called Java Ground, and they ported it to work on over 200 mobile devices. So I mean, those guys busted their ass to get that game to work. So it's amazing that I got the reviews that it did. It's unfortunate that it's got kind of lost amongst all this stuff. Maybe one day.
That's another reason I'm against mobile gaming. Like, they don't archive that stuff properly. Like they don't keep a proper track of it. So another, big old middle finger to anybody who wants to preserve that stuff.
Yeah, and they put the effort into it, because what's also really interesting is, they kind of refer to all the God of War games, with the exception of the newest one, are part of the Greek era, right? Because it's all Greek mythology, while the newest one is Norse mythology. So all those Greek era games had the same. I mean, most of them had multiple writers, but there is a writer, Marianne. I'm trying to pull up her name here. Marianne Krozik, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, was the writer for all of them, for all the Greek edition games, with the exception of Ghost of Sparta, and that's probably because Ghost of Sparta was being worked on when God of War III was being worked on. So even for that mobile game, she had a writer credit on it because they wanted to keep that consistency. So it's obvious to me that they want it to be part of the canon. It's just unfortunate that Sony doesn't, make the effort to bring it back so people can experience it if they missed out on it.
Yeah, but they're not missing much. I don't think.
Well, how was the game then?
The Betrayal? It's.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really. The story could have been good because I never really paid attention to it. I didn't beat it either because, like Frank said, it's a mobile game, so there was no. They probably did put a lot of effort into it, but I had no attraction or wanting to stick with it, or like, oh, I really got to finish or get through this. I kind of just picked it up here and there, and wasn't really paying attention too much or focusing on what the direction of the story was for that one. So I kind of just, it's whatever to me for that one.
Yeah, cool. Do you have to pay for it, or?
I think it was like $5.
Well, mobile games, I guess.
And that was during the time where a lot of the big title games were getting like mobile games. They had like Medal of Honor 1 and all these different EA big title AAA games were getting mobile releases.
Well, and Assassin's Creed had a mobile release. There was
a Rage one too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a Rage.
So yeah, that was going on during the time. So I actually spent it because I saw God of War. I was like, oh, there's a God of War one. And then kind of really. I should have known what I would like. I should have expected it to be that way. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to care too much about this.
It's still new in 2007. We didn't know how good games were going to
be. Yeah, true.
Well, I was wondering if that storyline was probably maybe like in comics or something like that, because I've never followed the comics at all.
Well, I forgot there were even comics for the series, so I have no idea. I knew there were books.
Were they?
I haven't read any of the expanded stuff yet.
Is it Dark Horse?
I don't remember at all.
Like IDW?
It might be IDW, but I'm not too sure.
As long as they're following the storyline, like the IDW Silent Hill comics, you guys know how much of a Silent Hill fan I am, and those are some of the worst things I've ever
DC
seen.
Comics, actually.
It was DC? Wow.
Oh, interesting.
Well, no. Oh, never mind. I was going to say that makes sense because of MK. I mean, it kind of does because DC does have that deal with NetherRealm, which is probably why Kratos came out on the PlayStation for MK 9.
And we all played that, right?
MK9, yeah, of course. That was my favorite one.
It's like
the best one.
Yeah.
So, as far as everyone knows that this is heavily inspired by Greek mythology. I'll ask you this question, Bobby, just because you're the educator of us.
Well, Frank's an educator too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Well, I'll ask both of you. You can both chime in on this.
It's like I need some computer help. I'm gonna call Val because he's the resident only computer guy that we know.
Call Val because he is way smarter than I am at all of that stuff. Sorry, Frank.
No, you're good, man.
Well, I'm going to ask you anyway, just because I feel bad. How do you feel? How accurate, or how do you feel this? How am I going to phrase this? Do you think the story fits in well with Greek mythology?
Yeah, I mean, as an interpretation, like they have the basic structure. All the gods, with their polytheistic roles and everything like that. They got all that down. So they had a lot to work with, and I think that's probably what made some of the writing easier since they already had source material that they could pull from. All they really did was they created this character. I mean, Kratos is an original character. I don't remember reading about him in Greek mythology or actual, historical Greece. But
I didn't pay attention much in history, so I don't know.
I don't think our history classes covered Greek mythology.
Yeah. I'm like, that was more.
I wouldn't know. I was mostly asleep. But
I think whenever it was Greek or Roman mythology, I think those were mostly English classes, and it was more for the writing. But no, I mean the gods, they all have their roles. They did a really good job of interpreting them for the setting of this alternate Greece, this alternate history. And as far as like the character motivations, even for the gods, where they were very understandable, and I think they were very in line with how human they were represented back with Greek mythology. Like Zeus is this big dickhead, and guess what? He's a big dickhead in all the games. He's very flawed. He's a very jealous and even envious at times.
And he sires children left and right.
Children left and right because Kratos is one of his sons, right?
Yep.
I mean, if I'm remembering because he turned into like a chicken or a barracuda or who knows what the hell he turned into that time. But
if he turned into a barracuda, it's like, what kind of shit was Kratos' mom into?
Hey, man. It's not what I'm pretty. It's like they have their godly powers. I'm pretty sure a lot of it is non-consensual. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, good point.
Jeremy. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, because I'm gonna change the conversation slightly.
Me and Jeremy used to play all the time with a friend, and we would love just sitting around and just take turns passing the controller and playing. And my friend was really into Greek mythology. He even had like an encyclopedia. So as we were going through it, he's like, let's fact check this, and he would go through like the character's name, and we would see the comparison. He reads it out, and it's like, oh, dude, like Frank was saying earlier, they 100% all the gods and everything that they show in there is how they're described in their mythology and how their behavior is or how their attitude is supposed to be, and it all checks out. The only thing that's out of place is Kratos himself. It's like, and it's really well done because he fits in well with it how they portray him,
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up too.
Yeah.
Because, sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
One thing that I did like, I mean, if you've all played, or at least know the story, Kratos eventually does become the god of war.
Mm-hmm.
And his personality in that sense sort of fits. Like, even in that, I can see him as the god of war totally, without.
It's good because his interactions with them actually brings out more of like how that mythology of that god or character is represented. So him interacting with them or him back talking Zeus kind of shows how Zeus is very vengeful or he can be, triggered easily by insults and stuff like that, So his interactions are really well done. Like that's what I thought was really cool. Even though like Kratos seems like a very, very simpleton,
Well, yeah, like he's.
I don't think it's so much that he's a simpleton. I just think he's single-minded in his revenge, right?
He's just like a primal beast man,
Right. But he can solve them crazy-ass god puzzles, so I think he's pretty bright.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, he's also, originally Ares' avatar. He's the embodiment of a lot of the god of wars, whatever you want to call it. So it makes sense for him. And then and that's one thing I think is interesting is like the psychology, because you think about our human minds, like how easily we're influenced, by our surroundings and in our interactions and stuff like that. And the kind of psychological damage that would be fallen upon a mortal, getting these powers and then feeling all this rage and stuff. And it kind of makes sense for his character, going from a human to essentially a demigod. And, he's probably got extreme PTSD. He's like this extreme Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we back up here, I mean, he has a traditional Greek tragedy background where, I mean, he became Ares. Ares. He became Ares. There we go.
He became Ares.
He became Ares. Well, really, his puppet, right? I know we say his avatar, but more than anything, his puppet. What was it that he was in a battle and he was losing? So then he prayed to Ares, right, to give him the strength, and that's why he was able. And he's a Spartan too, so we know the mythology behind Spartans, how they were great warriors and they were vicious and violent, blah blah. If you've seen the movie 300, you get the mythology behind the Spartans, not necessarily the reality. But anyway, So then you have the tragic backstory where he goes mad and he ends up killing his own wife and child. And that's where we get into the whole aspect of the reason his skin is white is because they're supposed to be ashes of his dead family, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the driving force behind Kratos. So there you have the Greek tragedy portion of it. And then in the Greek mythology portion, you also have the tale of revenge where he comes back against the god. You know, like in this game, you go God of War 1 ends and he becomes the next God of War by killing Ares, right? And then the second God of War, they introduced the concept that Zeus is actually his father, which, you know, in other types of storytelling, other genres, I'd probably be upset with that because we thought of Kratos as human becoming a god, and that seems powerful. But in Greek mythology, it makes sense because all these characters that become part of the world of the gods is because they're, you know, what do you call them? Bastard children of gods, you know, like Hercules or what was the name of the guy from Clash of the Titans?
Perseus, thank you.
So they all get sucked into these worlds because of their bloodline connections to these gods. So it totally makes sense for Kratos to go through that. And I thought what was also cool is in part 2 when they introduced the Titans, because you know, the Titans were a huge part of Greek mythology that a lot of people aren't really aware of. And to introduce the Titans and show that the original war for Olympus got started because of the war between the Titans and then the gods, the Olympus gods. It feeds into that whole story. So they did a great job bringing in all that mythology, you know, keeping it in a way accurate, but making it work for this new story they're telling with Kratos. And so I think that's what it would, you know, the gameplay was amazing, which really helps, but the storytelling I thought was and the world building, all of that. I mean, all aspects of it worked.
And you bring up a good point with that too, because even though you say like he's a demigod, and that's how the storytelling is really well done, because even as I'm going through it, I still don't view him as like a god, though. I still view him as if he was a mortal human. I connect with him that way instead, you know? And he goes through all those motions as a human, basically, or thinking he's one before he even finds out, you know?
Yeah, because I think he's coming from the perspective of being human to becoming a god, while the gods are gods who still make human-like decisions or mistakes.
So his behavior is always going to be as a human would behave. And not someone who knows he's a demigod.
Mm-hmm. He wants revenge mostly. Like
vengeance.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he hates the gods. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, something you had brought up. Okay, so like all the bastard children, not all of them were demigods, because like Hercules is a good example of one. We all are mostly familiar that, you know, Zeus impregnated, you know, had relations with whatever Hercules' mom names, Hercula, whatever the hell her name was. and then he you know, he was born with, you know, this tremendous strength, and eventually he does become the god of strength. But like Perseus, he was a man, and of course, if you've seen Clash of the Titans, which I was also going to bring up, is that I learned a lot of Greek mythology because I watched Clash of the Titans and Hercules and Xena in the 90s. And so I was familiar with a lot of the names and the roles of the gods that way. And then, of course, as I got older, you know, and reading a little bit more about mythology, and you see the origin of these stories. But like it wasn't ever consistent. You know, it's like, okay, well, Hercules is a demigod, but Perseus is just a man, and you know, he had help from Zeus, which is really what kind of saved his ass, because if not, he would have been killed many times over.
Right.
So yeah, so that's why I really agree with Mike B about that. Like, I really see Kratos more as a man. He was a Spartan, so he already was a great warrior because of that. But I didn't ever see him, even though he was the son of Zeus, being more than a man before that.
Yeah, and that does get reflected really well in particularly initial 3 games. I will say for this newest God of War, they do take advantage of his godhood, because there are feats of strength that he does in this new game, like lifting large boulders that a regular human couldn't, that obviously require godlike qualities. And I don't remember.
Chris Redfield.
Or Chris Redfield arms.
He's not punching him, man.
He's not punching him, so he's just lifting him. So
you know, maybe that's really what it is. Like, we keep trying to lift boulders. Maybe we just need to actually be punching them. And then that'll get them to move. Or
Chris Redfield's a demigod, and we just don't know. No? There's that possibility too.
Those are the biceps of a demigod, I can tell you that.
Well, that's the best thing too about when you play certain games. The best ones are the ones where you're invested or you see yourself through that character. So when it came to that moment of Kratos against Hercules in God of War 3, it's like, oh, dude, we can take out Hercules.
That
was a good fight.
When you fucking kick his ass, dude, it's like, oh, dude, I fucking kicked Hercules' ass. Fuck you. Like, you know.
Well, you know one thing I love too?
Brutal deaths too, man.
Oh yeah,
that dude like destroys him.
I think probably one of the worst deaths was Hermes. He just rips his head off. I mean, he's just like
you see it just stretched away slowly.
Yeah. But quick little side note, which I really love, is that they did get Kevin Sorbo to voice Hercules in God of War 3. They got Harry Hamlin.
Disappointed line though.
Oh yeah. They got Harry Hamlin to voice Perseus too, which I thought was really cool. Even though Kevin Sorbo is a big religious, fruitcake now, like I still remember the good days of when he was disappointed.
That's good.
I just love that. Somebody in editing probably had to watch that and was like, it's fine.
They're like, wait, we're 10 seconds short. Leave it in.
Just leave it.
Well, speaking of the gameplay, well, I mean, I guess kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but what are your favorite gameplay elements in all of this? I mean, we touched a little bit on it, but what drew you all into the game?
So the thing that attracted me was the brutality of the combo system that they had. You know, watching the gameplay videos of it for the PS2 when it was originally showcased before release, it looked fun to play. And like, I know there's other hack and slash games where Bayonetta always comes to mind for a great hack and slash game, but where Bayonetta felt like a very much finesse style hack and slash with a lot of dodge movements and a lot of interruption attacks. God of War feels more like you're using your power and your strength in order to destroy these enemies as quickly as possible before they can even lay a hand on you. And it feels much more focused on the offensive rather than defense. Now the evade motion is great. It's amazing that they made it so simple, which is using that right stick in order to dodge. They did a great job with their fixed cameras, so that way it never felt like your gameplay was being interrupted, even in moving environments, like when you're going up elevators or if the cameras are moving around, whatever the case may be. And but just the brutality and how it's funny to say this, but the beauty of the brutality, because there are times where you could say, oh, this is distasteful, but like, Frank was talking about Hermes' head being ripped off, but it totally fits in with the way the game is, right? When you're destroying these enemies, it totally fits in. He doesn't. Almost every enemy has a finisher that you can complete, right? Where I think if you hit circle button, you can rip out their eye, cut off their head. And one of my favorite ones were always against the trolls, or I'm sorry, not the trolls, the Cyclops, where you get on its back and you get the blades of chaos and you just stab them right. Yes, just brutal. But of course, the enemies were just as brutal. I mean, they weren't there just to punch you and run away. They were there to destroy you. So those enemies were just as challenging. And then, of course, you have the mixture of the puzzle aspects of the game where there's all this puzzle solving that takes place in between the action, not unlike Uncharted. Uncharted, you have the action set pieces and then puzzles in between. And God of War is one of the first games I remember playing which did that in a way where the transitions were nice and smooth. It wasn't like you're finishing these. It never felt like there was a distinct cut between fighting and puzzle things. You're in the same area. It was a very smooth transition, so you never knew if you were going to be doing a puzzle or if you're going to be fighting your way out of things. And sometimes you'd be doing both. There's a great mix-up, especially in 2 and 3. I mean, as great as 1 is, I really do think 2 improves on it in so many ways, and 3 carries that forward. And but overall, the gameplay is fantastic for those reasons, especially with the variety in the combos, because you not only can you upgrade your Blades of Chaos, or what were Blades of Athena in the second one, or Blades of Exile in the third one, but you get additional weapons. In one of the games, you get the bow and arrow from Artemis, right? Or is it Helios? I can't remember which character it is, but you get the bow and arrow from one of them. Or
I think it's Artemis, because she's the god of Artemis.
Right. And then And then, or you get this giant axe in one of the games. I think maybe it's 3. And the thing is they weren't afraid to also change up gameplay mechanics from each game. They tried different things, and no matter which game you played, I never felt that any of the mechanics were broken. Now, did you need to use all those mechanics to get to the game? Hell no. But it was a lot of fun to figure out a lot of those combos and to figure out how to use a lot of those different weapons in action. And to use
except for the executions, because a lot of them, if they were a pain in the ass monsters, if you didn't execute them, they would just their health would recover, and then they were just a pain in the ass again.
Yeah,
that's true. There were some of those, but that's why I never screwed those up, Mike.
Yeah, the smaller guys, once they're in the execute state, you could probably hit them and just kill them anyway. But.
Yeah. I think once they're in the execution state, if you just keep hitting them, they just die and you get less red orbs because you didn't perform the execution.
Right. Yeah,
just quick note, it's the bow of Apollo.
That's what it was.
Oh, yeah. Right. Don't you get it after you kill somebody?
I believe
Apollo. You have to. There's a battle with Apollo.
Was it? Yeah. I thought it was a different boss there.
Are you talking about part 3?
Well, hold on. No, it says Kratos obtained it after he killed Pirithous.
Yeah. He was begging for your help, I think, and then you burn him with it.
Yeah. I remember that.
The mortal lover of Persephone. Yeah. And because he was trapped within a cage of brambles.
Yeah, that's one of the things too. And Bobby was saying earlier, it's just the sheer amount of different types of executions that were in it was actually just really cool for me. It's like it was like if you're in the Coliseum watching gladiators fight, I was like, yeah, fucking rip his head off or something. And there was always something unique or something new whenever you came across a new bad guy or something. And I would also say that the biggest attraction is the boss battles. So like with the Hydra, when you play the first one on the PS2, I was like, oh dude, this is awesome. Like look at the side. It's probably one of the first ones where it's like a massive, or for me at least, the first hack and slash 3D game with like giant size bosses or creatures that you fight that I tried. And then from the first one all the way to the most recent one now, that the scale of that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it's not distasteful either. They're doing it pretty cool, like epic boss battles that were awesome.
Right.
Well, it is kind of distasteful, but that's the charm. The gameplay, absolutely, and especially the visceral, feeling you get from all those executions. But for me, I think another thing that really drew me to it was the story, because, for the transition from the 5th generation to 6th generation, the storytelling in games, just it jumped up huge again. And I think with God of War, especially just being a hack and slash, I mean, it's not a simple hack and slash, but it is essentially, when you boil it down to its simplest form, it's a hack and slash. But, the narration, the using of Greek mythology, the way the story flowed, and then especially in that first game, I mean, and I'm going to say it, of course, because whether you played it or not, it's a 15-year-old game, so get over it. Finding out that his family was bonded to his body, it's like, oh my God. Oh my God, of War. Just kidding. No, I and the storytelling and also the graphics, they were really impressive, especially back then. I mean, from God of War 1 to God of War 2, which was only 2 years, you saw a huge jump.
That was a big
huge jump. And when I saw the screenshots for God of War 3, I was blown away. I was, and even now, playing it on PS3, it's still a very graphically impressive game.
Yeah, like that PS4 remastered of 3 looks really good, but there's no reason why you can't go back and play it on the PS3.
It's PS3, yeah.
It still looks incredible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just could not get over it the first time I was playing it. I was like, I'm playing this game. This is amazing. Yeah. And I can't wait to play God of War 2018 because that's a very beautiful game as well. But that storytelling, it's just been such a cool thing. And that's honestly why I did the PSP titles. I did play the first one on PSP, The Chains of Olympus, because I had actually a God of War PSP with that game. But I remember later. And, I just wanted to get more of that story. I wanted to get more of the lore that they had created for this series. And for Betrayal, it'd be cool if they did a simple remaster 2.5D. kind of like what they did with Dracula X Chronicles. But
yeah, that would be cool.
I don't think they're going to do it. But it just sucks because that's like, why is it called Betrayal? Like, I could go to the Wikipedia page, but I'd rather see the game tell its story that way.
So Bobby, I know you're playing God of War 5, but what about
4? God of War 4.
4, right? My bad. Have you, Mike, Frank? Have you tried it? I know you just said you hadn't, Frank, but Mike.
Yeah, I tried it. I liked it a lot. They made some changes for controls, but they let you change the control scheme back to the old hack and slash, which I did right away. And I think it puts you at a disadvantage because you have to let go of the thumbstick to press the buttons. And this one is kind of like a third person, so it's a lot easier. Like they had it where the triggers are the attack, so you can keep your hand on the right joystick and you can like look around and shoot at the same time. But I just didn't like that feeling. I was just so used to the square and triangle and all that stuff like that, so I switched it back.
I actually stuck with it.
Too.
Yeah, you stuck with it?
I stuck with it. I got used to it. It wasn't an issue. I feel you on that initially, because to me it was weird having attack buttons, melee attack buttons on the shoulder. I understand why they do it, because in the game you have this thing called the Leviathan axe, and a big component of its attack is that you can throw it. And so by using those on the shoulder buttons, that's what they're trying to get that feel, because then you're using the joystick to also move around your attack. But I totally get switching it back to that as well, to the square and X buttons for normal attack. It's up to your taste and standards, but it's good that they gave you that option.
That's Mike. Yeah. Mike B's just stubborn. When you watch him play Doom Eternal, and you'll see that.
Mike, did you ever finish?
The story was cool.
Did you finish it? Okay, don't spoil it for me because I'm still playing through it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into spoilers too much, but I was curious. What
story is awesome.
Yeah, story and just he obviously has a son again, like in that particular game. So I was just curious how well that.
I thought he had a daughter. Didn't he have a daughter?
Yeah, it started with a daughter.
His daughter is in the Greek.
Yeah, because her name was Calliope, right?
Yeah.
In the original.
In the original, yeah.
Yeah, in the original. And then he has Boy.
Yeah. Boy. That's just a cool name. I mean, I'm curious, and I want to play the game myself, but
I think it's Atreus.
Atreus is his name. Yeah.
It's Atreus. Yeah.
Atreus. Yeah.
Oh, and then
isn't that the same name of the kid from Neverending Story?
No, it's Atreyu.
Oh, it's Atreyu. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that. One thing that really kind of disappointed me is that they changed voice actors, because it was.
You told me that.
Was it Carson? What was his name? Terrence Carson, the original voice.
I don't know the voice actors' names, but you could tell the difference right away once you play the new one. It's and that's not him.
I heard that like Christopher Judge in 2018 does a really good job, but like just.
Oh, that's Christopher Judge.
Yeah, it's Christopher Judge.
Yeah. Oh my god! Wow.
Stargate SG-1, man.
That's cool. I'm a huge Stargate nerd.
I think the voice acting fits for because this game thematically is very different than the previous games with the Greek mythology. Kratos is very different. I mean, he's still the angry guy, but his way of dealing with things, the way he reflects on, the past crap he had to deal with, he seems like a very different character.
Yes.
Obviously, he's running away from his past, and he's going to have to come to terms with it in this game. But at the same time, he seems more. I don't know. I don't want to say more. He's definitely not more at peace, but everything seems more subtle with him, and I think that's just the theme that they're going with the game. So, He's
got a sick beard too in this.
Yeah,
he's got a sick beard, and somehow his nose got bigger. His nose does look bigger.
He's older. Hey man, as you get older, your ears get bigger, your nose gets bigger, you get shorter, you get hair in places you didn't have hair before.
Good point.
He's probably broken his nose like 6 times.
Right.
Well, and actually, I wanted to ask you, Bobby. I mean, as far as how far after 3 does 2018 take place? As far as the game timeline goes, I know.
I don't know the exact year, but assuming Atreus he looks like he's like 10, 11 years old. And then I don't know how much time took place in between the time he met Atreus' mom and they did the nasty between the end of God of War 3.
I believe her name was Atreya.
Probably. But I mean, obviously, it has to be a minimum of I would say between 10 and 15 years for sure.
Are you sure her name wasn't Woman? Boy and woman.
Woman. Boy.
Okay.
Woman, have you seen Boy?
Okay, and that's another thing too. Actually, another thing that really kind of going back to the last question is that what appealed to me in series 2 was the voice acting. The voice acting is so good.
Yeah,
like it's cheesy and over the top, but you're talking about Greek mythology. You know, gods performing these these cataclysmic events and all this stuff. Like it fits perfectly, and it is so entertaining to watch.
Yeah. I remember Zeus sounded cool. I always thought he sounded cool. I don't know who voices him from like 2.
Oh, I don't know.
I always thought he sounded badass.
Yeah, but across the board, the voice acting has been incredible in that game, even with this new one.
Here's a question though, because I heard 5. I keep calling it 5. I don't know why. 4 was more. I mean, the rest of them are Greek mythology. Isn't 4 more on like
Norse?
It's Norse mythology.
Okay. That's what I was also curious about, how they're fitting that into the whole story.
Again, I mean, the attention to detail and the mythology is amazing. Just all these little things, just like in the original game, all these little things, all these little mentions. And if you're a fan of Norse mythology, you know any basic things about Norse mythology, you'll catch a lot of stuff. And I think it's really good. Again, they're doing a great job of putting Kratos into this Norse world, but it's also obvious that they've created this larger universe where it was hinted at. I don't know if you guys remember David Jaffe, I think is how you say his last name, was the original creator of God of War. It's the same guy who did the Twisted Metal series. And and his original idea for God of War 3 for it to conclude was basically for Kratos to involve himself in all these other worlds of mythology, not just Greek. So I was going to go into Norse. They were talking about doing Chinese mythology or Egyptian mythology. And so I don't know if they're going to continue going forward with that kind of stuff with this after the end of this God of War, because I haven't played it.
Remember Aldo was saying maybe he's going to take on Jesus Christ one day.
Oh yeah.
Aldo was talking about that. I was like, well, maybe that would be crazy.
So, I mean, that was the original plan from David Jaffe, and obviously that's not how God of War 3 ended. But, by then he left the studio in 2007 just as Part 2 is coming out, which is why he's credited with director, but so is Cory Barlog.
Balrog.
Is it Balrog or Barlog?
I don't know. Let me check. I
hope it's Balrog.
It's Barlog, yeah.
Man.
I double-checked it too.
It's Balrog. I agree with Frank.
So Cory, not Balrog, was the director for Part 2 along with Jaffe, and then he was the director of Part 3. Nope, director of Part 3 was someone else. So it's interesting how even though every game has had a different director.
It's changed every game, I think,
with the exception of the newest one, because Cory Barlog came back to Sony to direct the newest one. And so they've been able to keep that pace, or
They're collaborating, I guess, with each other.
Yeah, and keep everything consistent. What also helps is, like I said, for the Greek ones, it was the same writer for all of those. So that helps keep that too. But even if you look at the PlayStation Portable ones, those were done by Red. What's it called? Chains of Olympus was Ready at Dawn Studios. Both of them were. And even though it was a completely different studio, thematically they're almost exactly the same as the original games, so they don't miss a beat, and that's really important. I mean, obviously they had a lot of collaboration with the producers or more so the directors and writers, which is why they were able to maintain that with all those games. I mean, even Ascension, which is people consider Ascension kind of like I guess like a cash grab because it didn't get it's probably the lowest rated one, but thematically it's still very similar to the others. It's just gameplay wise it wasn't as good as people were hoping it would be. Plus I think at that point with the conclusion of God of War 3, people were like, okay, well, let's move on, instead of trying to harken back to more of Kratos' past, which we've already done enough of. let's talk more about what's coming afterwards, which is a good thing they did this newest one because it is exactly what everybody wanted in the sense of the moving the story forward for Kratos.
Well, that was what's great about the PSP ones, though, is you don't have to play those to get the full experience. Well, I'm saying that wrong, not full experience, but like to get what the story is, basis of the story is, and still have a good story. But if you really want, there really is, that's what's good about the PSP games, though, there really is a lot of good, more lore and backstory to, or that happens between those games if you do play them. Because a lot of people just think, he's angry at the gods because the thing that happened with his wife and kid, and then he's just angry at them. That's how it seems if you just play 1, 2, and 3. But with the PSP, there's a lot more that happens about with his daughter and everything like that. I don't know if you guys played that or not. I want me to spoil it.
Those you can spoil because I've read the stories on those. Yeah,
I don't remember 100%, but I know it's like Hades' wife is going to get rid of like all of existence because she doesn't want to be in hell anymore.
Right.
So he's like offering him time to spend time with his daughter, and then that as long as he lets her do this. But then he comes to the realization, if he does that, she's going to make nothing exist, and if nothing exists, his daughter's not going to exist. So that they have this whole moment where you're supposed to like shove and reject your daughter the whole time, and she's like, "No, Daddy," and you have to keep pushing her away. So then he just holds that resentment towards the gods even more. So like, and then it goes into part 3. So you're like, okay, now it like seems exactly why he's completely enraged or pissed off with the gods,
Well, he was betrayed too. You think about the beginning of 2. You're fighting that huge statue. I forgot what it's called because it's based on the Colossus of Rhodes. And then Zeus is like, put all your power into this sword, and that's the only way you can defeat it. And then he gets stabbed through the chest, and you get sent down to Hades, which was a great intro for part 2, man. Like, oh my god, just another testament to that storytelling. Like you just because even though 2 starts off with that battle, it's still really a tutorial. But it's also not, because they're kind of assuming you're familiar with the gameplay, because it's not as simple, just like, oh, I'm gonna just kill all these simple enemies. You do have to fight the Colossus, which means you already have to kind of be familiar with identifying patterns, using the dodge, and everything like that. So so that was just a great intro.
Well, and I think that's true for all of them, because I mean, part 1 you have the introduction where you fight on the ship, and then you have to fight the Hydra, so you have a major boss right there. It kind of, in a way, it kind of backfires, because at least with part 1, bosses weren't a strong point, because you had the Hydra, you had the Minotaur, and then you had Ares, and that was it. There are huge gaps with no other bosses in there, but they made up for that in 2 and 3. And then 2, you have that startup with the Colossus of Rhodes, along with the enemies that you're fighting, because you have to fight the Colossus on multiple. I think there's 3 sections to fighting it throughout that stage. And then, of course, in the part 3, you have when the Titans are attacking Olympus, and the first major boss I think you fight is Poseidon, which is very early on in the game. Within probably the first half hour. And there's such incredible battles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always open up really big.
Yeah. And I mean, and it keeps the game going. I mean, it's incredible what they're able to do with those set pieces. I mean, my favorite is probably still that boss battle with Kronos. Because he has Pandora's tower on his back, right? Yeah. And so that was good. But like one of the things I want to backtrack to is as far as the Greek myths, again, working really well for this game. We already established that Zeus is his father. And part of the reason Kratos is betrayed is because just as Zeus betrayed his father Kronos in Greek mythology, essentially killing him, Zeus is afraid that his own son will betray him, and that's why he's afraid of Kratos, because he's been told by an oracle that Kratos is going to kill him and usurp him and all this kind of stuff. So that's why he turns around and kills Kratos. But
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
No reason,
Kratos has spent a lot of time in the underworld.
Yeah, yes.
Well, yeah, because what's it called? Because in 2, in Chains of Olympus, I think that's when he goes there the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's when he sees Persephone and she explains all that stuff. And then does he go to he goes to the underworld? I think again it goes to Sparta to go get his brother, right?
His brother, yeah.
Yeah, Deimos.
Yes.
Deimos, yeah.
I think it's Demos.
Demos or Deimos? I've heard it pronounced both ways, so.
Well, Demos sounds better than Deimos.
I like Deimos better.
It's
That's because you're lamos.
That's correctos.
There's also a part, and I can't remember which game it is, where he like stabs himself through the chest, like, and ends up back down there.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't remember which game it was.
Wait, he does what now?
He kills himself so he can go to
He
Hades.
basically stabs himself.
Oh,
because
to go to
he
Hades?
realizes- Yeah.
Is it 3?
I want to say it's 3, but I can't remember.
But he does go to Hades in 3, so I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since I played those
it
the
is.
original trilogy.
Yeah, me too, man.
I mean, this series, it's funny because you think about like those. Most of the games came out between a 5 years.
2005 and 2010, those 3.
Yeah, because
Well, actually, all 5.
Oh, it was the end of
yeah,
God
yeah.
of War 3. It was the end of God of War 3 when he does
You're
that.
talking about when
Hey,
he killed himself?
spoilers! I haven't finished. I'm just kidding.
Come on, man.
Oh,
They
yes.
Been out for a while.
Yeah, there's no death of Zeus, Frank. Don't worry.
Oh man,
So, the whole thing. Okay, so I looked it up honestly, but I'm starting to remember like Athena wants him to return power
The sword.
to her, and instead of doing that, he kills himself.
Oh,
And that was the
yeah,
whole thing with that. At the end of 3, anyway.
right.
Okay. I need it, man. I really need to play or finish it, I should say.
It's a really cool ending, actually, when you look into everything that happened in that game.
Yeah, it's appropriate for that story, man, for it to end the way it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. So
Well-
it was kind of like the hero to the people too, without even knowing it, even though he was doing it for his own needs or his own gains.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind that he did release Pandora's box,
True.
which released
But, like,
everything and essentially
He didn't
destroyed
want
the
to
world.
return- He like because he released Hope also, and that was like the only thing that could defeat Zeus.
Yeah.
But
Well, and plus, he
rather
killed all the
than
gods that were ruling over all the people too. So like there was no more of
but
they
then
don't have
like,
control over the people anymore because they're dead. It's like,
the whole point there was he should return Hope, so that Athena can give it to humanity, and instead he kills himself. So it's I don't know how good of a person he is ultimately.
Well, but I think hope was given to the people. It's just, of course, because he destroyed Olympus, that destroyed essentially the world that existed. But because he destroys Olympus, then he gets rid of the gods, and now the humans can live their lives
I
without
guess
having to
they
have
have their
control of the
own
gods.
yeah,
free will in a way, I guess.
yeah.
But he didn't do it for that reason. I mean, he just out of his anger.
He totally didn't.
I mean, like Mike
She was
talks
just another
about.
god asking for the sword, and he's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the first thing I want to bring up is like, Mike says Hope killed Zeus, but I do remember the scene where you literally in first person beat the shit out of Zeus with Kratos' fist, which is so brutal.
The idea behind that is that it was giving Kratos like the hope to overcome that struggle.
Oh no, yeah, I know what you meant. I was just
Dude, when I was playing that part for the first time, it kept saying press circle. So I was pressing it really fast, and of course it's just like circle, 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 circle. I sat there for like 15 minutes thinking if I stop, I'll lose. But you stop whenever you feel like it afterwards.
They'll just keep
I was
going
like, man,
on.
the screen's
It'll
completely
keep going
red
on
full of
until
blood.
you-
I don't know. When is this gonna end? And I was like, what, fuck it, I'm done. And then it just like stops, and then that was it. And I was like, oh, sorry, Zeus.
No, that's sorry.
A
Zeus.
bunch of
Don't
those battles were like
apologize.
that, though. I think a lot of those battles in 3 especially allowed you to, just be brutal until you decided you wanted
Man,
to
Hercules. Like Hercules.
Yeah, Hercules.
Oh man. I mean, Hercules gets what's coming to him, but man.
They do a good job of like making
every single hit you could see
everyone-
more of his face peeling off. And I was like, oh man, there it goes.
As much as I enjoyed that Hercules fight, I'm a little saddened that Hercules didn't have more sympathy for Kratos, considering he killed his own wife and child in the same manner too, in madness by the gods. But that's okay.
Just the fact that Kratos doesn't give a fuck though, like the whole what do you call it? Poseidon's wife, one of his wives in the temple, where he uses her as as to hold the gate open. So he like cranks it up, and he's like, "Stand right there." And then he goes through, and she's like, "I can't hold it anymore," and just like cuts her in half. And it's like, whatever.
And that's the other thing. Like, this game does not make Kratos out to be a hero.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't even call him an anti-hero. He's just a guy out for revenge, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit.
He's the protagonist. That's the most we can really give him.
And actually, with that thing with the Poseidon's wife, the first interaction that he has with another person whenever you play the game is when the Hydra's attacking a ship, and the guy's asking for help, and you just need that pendant, and you're like, like, throws him off.
Whatever. Or the guy's in the box, right? And he like kicks him into the fire.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
man.
The guy's like, please help me. and Kratos is just like,
he's like begging the whole time.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say like we need to like come up with a new term, because anti-hero is definitely definitely doesn't seem to fit for Kratos and
heroic villain.
The Ares was the god of war. Kratos should be
I
like
wouldn't
the
call
god
him a
of
villain.
testosterone.
Yeah. Anti-villain. He's an
He's
anti-villain.
an anti-villain.
Anti-villain.
Well, since we're talking about it, what was everyone's favorite aspect of Kratos? Like him as a character,
The honesty
appealed to him, or what appealed to you about him? I mean,
I think the honesty.
I like that he fucks the pain away. It was like, I gotta have sex with this woman.
So I know the main trilogy had those. Did the PSP games have those mini games as well?
I think they had one. I think there was one in one, and I think Ghost of Sparta. I think there was one scene like that.
Well, just in case everyone doesn't understand who's watching, at least for the mainline trilogy, there's at least one mini game where Kratos gets to bang hot Greek women, and in one case, a goddess. Yes,
Aphrodite. Yeah.
And
God of War 2 or 3?
I thought that was 3.
I thought that was 3. Yeah.
Okay. So, and of course, they're button prompts, right? It's QuickTime events, and of course, the camera moves away, and there's something shaking on screen, so you know what's going on exactly. And of course, you hear the moaning and stuff. And of course, when you want to do the mini games, because then you get orbs out of it, and then you can upgrade your shit. So
you regain your health and a fuck ton of XP.
Yeah.
You get a lot of experience.
Just as it should be.
So if you're a prude, you're gonna have to go through it anyway if you want to get through God of War.
Well, that was the funny part too. So we were double checking that too when we got to it. The blacksmith, what's his name? The one that makes the armor for him.
Oh, Hephaestus.
The big. Yes, and then he was talking about like his wife is Aphrodite, and then she got married off, and then she's over there. So we double checked this. Oh yeah, that is his wife, and he's like in prison to do this. It's like it all checks out. This like checks out. It's cool, and it's like he's asking you to go for help, and it's like bam, you just go fuck his wife.
Well, I mean, don't forget in Greek mythology, like the gods, like they're all in open relationships.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, I mean,
not like a traditional like Christian marriage or something like that. I mean,
they're all swingers.
It's not a traditional nuclear family.
Yeah, nuclear.
Well, then if it was okay, I wanted them to do like a little high five. How's my wife's pussy? It's good, huh? Let's get.
Hephaestus probably wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. We kill his ass.
Because Hephaestus' daughter's Persephone, right? The one that he made out of, like he made her.
No, Persephone was human. She was the one that Hades ended up kidnapping and taking to the underworld.
Oh, that's right. So then if it's not Persephone, then it's Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
Because he makes Pandora. Okay, I just mixed up the names. That's what it was. Okay. But yeah, I mean that's what makes these games so great is they really take advantage of the Greek mythology and use it for their storytelling.
Yeah.
As far as Kratos' character, like I was saying, his honesty about what he wants to accomplish. I mean, every person he comes across is just a means to meet his goal, right? He doesn't care about anyone else. He doesn't care if they get in his way. If they do, he'll just move them, or he'll abuse them until he gets what he wants. And and that's what I like about the brutal honesty of the character, because it's a game trying to reflect the anger of a person trying to get revenge for all the hell that they've been put through by these higher beings that hold themselves above him, and he hates them for it.
Mhm.
Can't really blame the guy for acting the way, one, like you said, he's a human that has the power to do something. And this is what happens when this is the lesson that the gods are learning by like treating a person like this, but giving them the power to do something about it. They've created their own worst enemy, and they're paying the price for it.
There's even a point where they're afraid of him, like in 3, because they know he's coming to fuck them up, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what I really love about Kratos too is pretty much kind of like Mike had mentioned earlier, is that he's kind of like a representation. Like you get to put yourself, you're like, oh, I hate you really kind of channel yourself into Kratos especially when you're like killing stuff, and with the button prompts, being able to like brutalize all these gods and everything like that. It's a little cathartic in a way. I mean, that's why we play video games is for the enjoyment and the storytelling for things that we can't do, not necessarily that we would do them in real life, but it's an outlet. And it's really fun to be playing as this pissed off guy, being able to kill all these gods who are selfish and awful and everything like that. So I think that's another thing I really like about Kratos, and in agreement with what Bobby said.
They should have a cutscene of one of the people that are just on Mount Olympus, just probably one of the slaves or one of the people just, what the fuck's going on over there? And it's just like Kratos tearing through people and shit. I don't know, dude, that guy's pissed off.
Yeah, you know what? Like the way 2 ends, because so you remember like something like Halo 2, the way Halo 2 ended, it's like, what are you gonna do, Chief? Finish this fight. And it's totally sequel baiting. And a lot of people were upset with that. But with the way 2 ends, with the Titans climbing a Mount Olympus, it's like, oh man, I can't wait to see the next. I can't wait to see the start of this. Like, I mean, it was total sequel baiting, but I don't know, for some reason, I think it was a lot.
It was written better.
Yeah, you know what? Because I think 2 was such a better game as opposed to like Halo 2, which was like kind of disappointing in certain ways. God of War 2 exceeded the first one in like every single way.
Well,
it was just such a tremendous.
It was a complete story. I mean, it just happened that the result was that he revived the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the story was him getting revenge, and it concluded with him, well, the best way for him to get revenge is to revive these Titans, and he reached his goal.
From the past? I thought that's what he did.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
It wasn't reviving; it was to pull him in from the past. That's right, because they'd already been killed off. And but again, I mean, you still tell a complete story, unlike with Halo 2, where people go back and talk about the story, and it feels like they didn't tell a complete story. It's like they were setting it up like it's like the Matrix 2 and 3, where it's like, oh, we have this one story, but we're going to split it up over 2 movies. And that's what it felt like with Halo 2 and 3. But with God of War, again, coming back to that writing, that is so important, where they wrote it in a way where it made sense that the story would end here and then it would continue. There are 3 acts in every story, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool, like you said earlier, with the brutal honesty too with him is cool, because I had a conversation with a friend once about it, and he was saying, "Oh, it's kind of like he's a dick because he just betrays the Titans." I was like, "Nah, dude, the Titans betrayed him first."
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that way in that situation, but when Gaia just kind of is like, "Nah, it's more important than you," and it just like flicks him off.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
that's why he goes to the underworld, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes, that's how he gets it.
That's right.
3.
You know what? It's funny because like I literally haven't played these games in like almost 10 years. No, that's not true. I think it's been about like 6 or 7. It's been a while. But like now that you guys are mentioning these story parts, like it's all just kind of coming back to me.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd actually have to like look it up and remember all the story, but I'm actually remembering a lot. I think it's more like the boss battles. It's a lot more of the gameplay stuff that I'm not remembering as well.
Yeah.
But that's again a testament to how good this story is. Like I haven't played God of War 3 since 2010 when it was released. Yeah. And the fact that we're talking all these little tidbits and then we can still remember these things, it sticks with you. That's how good it is.
But yeah, when I was saying that, what Bobby was saying, like it's true that he's not gonna backstab anybody but when he gets to this point, I'm gonna turn on them. He's just brutally honest. Like it's just his goal and objective, and that's it. At the end with Athena, where he doesn't give it over, it wasn't like he was scheming the whole time. He just realized, nah, hell no. Like, I'm not going to give that to you. Fuck you. It wasn't like a planned out thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a malicious thing. Like,
yeah. Oh, another thing I was going to ask you, Bobby, for the intro of God of War 2018, since you like he is running from his past and everything like that, like the Twilight of the Gods fully happened, right? At the end of 3, like all the gods die out, Olympus is destroyed, right?
Yeah. I mean, as near as I can tell, I don't know if there's going to if something's going to come back. Because I mean, Athena died, right, in God of War II because she sacrificed herself to prevent Kratos from killing Zeus.
Yes.
And then now she comes back as like this, well, not in the new game, but at part 3, she comes back as that spirit, right? Supposedly she's ascended to a higher being, which is why she wants the power in order to basically recreate the world. But Kratos sees it as more of the same. It's just the start of a new cycle, right? And so I don't know if in this Norse gods ones, if they're going to cycle back and bring some of that back in, because obviously the Norse gods are aware of the existence of the Greek gods, just their worlds do not interact with each other. And very early on in the game, they make it clear that the Norse gods are aware of Kratos' existence and that he's there because he's an outsider and they don't want him there. That's one of the big points of the game. They make that clear very early on, so that's not really a spoiler.
I kind of just want to figure out how he got there.
Yeah, since he threw himself off the mountain, right? How did he survive and end up there?
How did he get from that realm of whatever the Greek mythology is to the Norse? You know, they just keep going on saying, you know, he was from the Greek realm and now he's in the Norse realm, but they never say how or what.
Didn't he throw him off? Like he tried to kill himself, right? He stepped off of the mountain, but then he was saved, and I forgot who saved him, but she basically told him like your time here is not up yet or whatever, you're still needed.
No, I think that was at.
Or is that a different game?
I think that was at the beginning of part 2.
Part 3 ends with him stabbing himself, and then you don't see his body there.
Oh, that's right. It's just like the blood, like leading on.
So
that's right.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. He doesn't. I said he threw himself off at the end of part 3. That's wrong. It was at the beginning of part 2, right, where he throws himself off the cliff.
Gaia flings him off, or like pushes him off, or doesn't care.
No, that was the beginning of part 3. But
that was part 3.
If you remember at the beginning of part 2, because he was tired of being the god of war, remember he throws himself off the cliff, and that's I'm pretty sure it's Athena who rescues him.
Yeah, I think it's Athena. I was remembering that wrong, but Mike's right. It's at the end of 3, and you never know. You just see that his body's not there anymore.
Yeah, and then 4 just starts. He has a kid, and you know he's in this new place.
Yeah,
and like he said, you notice that he's a different man now, where he carries himself differently, he behaves differently. You could still see like you know. They have that real emotion, like you say, like he's human. He has those moments where you could see that rage come out, or like you could say, "Oh man, this like he's ill-tempered," you know, or short-tempered, or things trigger him, you know.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
That's another kind of question I have is that, you know, you have the Norse gods, you have the Greek gods, and like the way you just mentioned it, Mike, was you know the realms. I'm like, I wonder how much, like, if there's like a clear separation. I mean, not just geographically, but as far as like on a higher plane, like is there like kind of like this, you know, barrier of the deities and stuff like that so that whatever the Norse gods do, it doesn't influence the Greek realm and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious.
Well, I could do this without spoilers, or just kind of like a thing that's in there, because it doesn't explain how he got there or what happened. But I think the gods do know of each other's realms, because you get to a location where you're still in the Norse realm, I guess. You don't ever change from that, but there's an area where they have collected treasure, and it's treasure from Greek treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could see like, you know, paintings or vases, however you want to say it, with Kratos or Zeus on it. And then his son's like, well, what is this? And then Kratos is like, oh, well, they know about all this stuff, and they have some of the treasures from Greeks. And so, but they never dig deeper than that. Unless it's some of those notes, and I don't like to read, or things you find or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, this isn't necessarily explained in the games. I'm just asking, like, it's more of like a kind of rhetorical, but just general, like, you know, where do the gods' powers like stop affecting other areas? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you were to think, you know, in this universe, you have polytheistic gods, Greek, Norse, and I imagine Egyptian, Chinese, and Indian, whatever. Yeah. Is it going to stick specifically to just their respective areas? Is there any overlap? I don't know. It's just a random thought that I had.
Who's higher, Zeus or Odin?
I think Odin's. I don't know. That's a good question. Because I don't know enough about Norse mythology.
Yeah. No, but like your question is asking, so wouldn't there be one realm higher than the other when it comes to like, you know?
Well, no, I would assume that they're just separate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because they
Zeus
have
is on a mountain. Zeus is on a mountain, but Odin has to use the Bifrost, so he's probably further away.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another thing too, is that because the Greeks had the twilight of the gods, the Norse have Ragnarok. I wonder if there's anything like that for Egyptian mythology, where there was an age for the gods to end.
Yeah. Imagine if they end the whole game series. Guess what? Guess what it all is? It's Kratos. He's a video game character.
I know.
That's what he is. It goes all meta and everything.
I mean, that's one thing that's really cool, though, is that because those things were written in,
Yeah.
and they're kind of incorporating that, like the Twilight of the Gods, the end of Olympus. We get to see a video game interpretation of that happening, and okay, so not necessarily a slight spoiler for Bobby. I don't know if you want to stop listening, just really quick, Mike. But like at the end
For your
of
ears.
2018,
Not helping. Yeah, let me take my headphones off.
Okay, do you see the end of the Norse gods, or is it like, or is it just kind of showing how some of the gods die in 2018?
What do you mean, like from the Greek ones or the Norse ones?
No, the Norse ones, the 2018.
It's basically an introduction to they're gonna reveal more Norse gods.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I was more curious about. Okay,
Yeah.
Bobby,
You're good, Bobby.
okay. Yeah, because I don't care about spoilers.
We're done spoiling everything.
And now that I know that Voldemort's gonna come out, it's all good.
God damn it. I think
Hold in your
I think
farts,
the
you
Harry
can't smell it.
I think the Harry Potter universe would be another good crossover for the God of War series.
Well, if for Kratos to just go in and just like, man, he would.
Well, he'd probably beat the shit out of Harry Potter to take the wand, so then he could kill Voldemort.
That'd be an unfair matchup, man.
I can just see him with Ron.
That'd be like that Smash Brothers commercial where like Luigi was taking on like going into Simon, like the Castlevania
Oh yeah.
universe, and he got just like murdered, like straight up murdered in that preview.
He's gonna play a game of Quidditch without a broom. He's just like leaping everywhere and tackling everyone, breaking the brooms in half.
He kills the snitch.
He just bites down on it and cracks it in half.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't support those kind of crossovers. Like, I'm okay with Kratos going to Norse mythology, like, but yeah,
Yeah, it still fits within his character.
I want to see a Kratos Harry Potter crossover. That just
Well, maybe if it's done by Robot Chicken.
Harry Potter and the God of War.
Harry Potter and the God of War. Oh goodness.
Oh, that'd be great.
What was the question? What question were
I don't know. We just
I don't
started
know.
talking.
No,
We've just been conversing, but it
yeah.
was about Kratos' character.
Oh yes, that was a question.
Well, I do have one last question if you all want to
Yeah, let's keep going.
wrap it up, but this is for everyone, of course. What is your favorite God of War game series? Mine's 3 personally, but
I gotta go with 3.
That's tough.
If I'm going with games that I actually finished, then I would have to say 2. I do love 3, and I was really liking the way it was progressing. But I think just because for the transition from 1 to 2, all those improvements, and you start off in essentially Greek hell, which is Hades, which actually kind of I felt when I started playing Dante's Inferno. I'm like, hey, this is kind of like that level in God of War. Which
Right.
Dante's Inferno is a God of War clone, which is a great God of War clone, by the way.
that was a very underrated game.
It was just missing a lot of executions, though.
Yeah, I mean the execution.
Well, they didn't have the brutal stuff in God of
Yeah.
War. But gameplay-wise, it was pretty similar.
But yes, Frank is right. Dante's Inferno is a really good clone of that.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have not such a great clone of that, which was Lords of Shadow.
Yeah, I'm with Frank. I have to go with God of War 2. I've played through the trilogy, and as much as I love God of War 3, which I do think is a graphically impressive extension of 2, because 2 set everything in motion for 3. I kind of lean towards 2. I think I have stronger memories about 2 than I do about 3. Well, just, you know, such an amazing game, especially at the end of the life of the PS2. You know, graphically it pushed. It was a 2 DVD game. You know, and I mean a 2 dual layer DVD discs. So we're talking about, you know, 8 gigabytes per disc. So they put a lot into that game graphically, fundamentally, with the gameplay and the story. As good as the story is in part 1, they really take it up a notch in part 2, and it is really a cut above really a lot of things that still come out now. I mean, it is one of the best hack and slash games out there. I mean, it is amazing just in general that even a game like God of War Ascension, which is probably the weakest of the games, is still probably one of the better hack and slash games that you can play out there compared to any other games that come out. But specifically God of War 2 is the one that's the one that did it for me.
Yeah. The good thing I can say about part 2 is that I didn't notice in 3 is I feel like whenever you're doing like quick time events or certain things that it felt like it had more impact whenever he would like do something or slam something. Or 2? Yeah, I think in 2 and 3 it didn't feel as impactful though. It was just more bloody and gory. It just didn't. I don't know how to describe it that well. I guess I don't know. But I mean, but for me, 3 is actually my favorite one. I don't know. I just like visually how it looks, and the executions were over the top.
I think if anything, you know, if I'd finished 3, I'd probably prefer maybe a little more than 2, but just 2 was just such an improvement. It was just good. Like in game series, you know, that's one thing. Like when you compare games to movies, like the sequels and games are almost always better, funnily enough, as opposed to movies where they're usually complete trash.
Yeah. I said that, and the visuals for 3 though, that moments like we were talking earlier, it's really great. But the moments when you're first go in between a cavern and then the camera like zooms in to his like shoulder on the armor, I was like, oh my god, this looks crazy. And then Bobby said it earlier, like if you play it on PS4,
talking to the side, right?
Yeah, where you the first time, it's like zooms in. I was like, fuck, this is in-game graphics. What the fuck?
You know, and another thing too is that it's all in-game cutscenes.
Yeah, and then he stopped moving, and then I was like, oh wait, this isn't a cutscene, so I had to keep moving, holding up, you know, because I thought it went to a cutscene when it zoomed in. So I was like, dang, dude, this is crazy. And then Bobby's correct about that too. When you play it on PS4, you probably get better refresh rate and probably just, you know, maybe a scale a bit better. But on the visual look, if you go back and play it on the PS3, it looks amazing. Like, you know, I'm surprised that PS3 does that.
And that was 2010, you said, right?
Yeah.
God of War 3. You think, I mean, that's a 10-year-old game, which means that it was in development from about probably 2007 to 2008. So the fact that it still looks, you know, that what is it? The 7th generation consoles, like those a lot of those games still look really good, I think.
Well, and I think it's a big deal because one, I mean, obviously it's a Sony studio, so they had a head start on knowing how the PlayStation 3 ran. But like, you know, God of War 2 came out in 2007, PlayStation 3 came out in 2008. So obviously they were able to look at
PlayStation 3 came out.
What did I say? 2008?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2006. Yeah, sorry, my bad. So it came out in 2006. So they had all that time to see what other studios did, to see what kind of mistakes they made, you know, with the graphics and in-game engines, to then take advantage of it. Because you know, you'll read back, especially in the early years of the PS3, where that cell processor was notoriously difficult to design for, because again, it was an in-house made processor by Sony, as opposed to like the Xbox 360, which was using a I don't remember what it was, but the point is that they had to learn how to use it, and so those extra years putting in time on God of War 3, because it took 3 years to develop it, really paid off. And I mean, it is a beautiful looking game.
And how the game plays too for 3, it's like you said, 2 was such a great improvement from 1. And it's to the point when 3 came out, it's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
They just shined the shit out of it, you know? It was like, you know, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So are all of these available on PS4 now?
No.
I don't know.
The only one is 3 and 2018.
Oh, just 3?
Yeah.
That surprises me with the release of this last one, that they didn't do some kind of special release of all of them.
Yeah, I was expecting like a collection or something, but I guess not.
Well, if any of you guys are out there looking for a collection Like, definitely if you can get the Saga on PS3, do it. Especially because those PSP games are redone to take advantage of the system. Like, they run at 60 frames per second, and they've been upscaled. They really are remastered. They did a great job with it. So if you guys can get that Saga copy. Definitely.
My biggest regret is not getting that collector's edition with Pandora's Box for 3.
Oh, yeah, I have that.
But I don't have.
That one's cool.
I don't have the cardboard box. I think I accidentally tore it, so I threw it away. But I do still have the Pandora's box.
Oh, okay.
And then I did get the Ascension Collector's Edition, and I have the 2018 Collector's Edition.
Yeah, I got the Ascension one. I didn't like that figure.
No, that statue is so cheap. It's like this big.
Mm-hmm. And it looks cool in the picture, and then when you look at it, you're like, "Wait, this doesn't look the same." It's all painted, like crappy and stuff. So
it's like.
It's Kratos, or
it's Kratos. Like he's like kind of squatting, like holding his.
Okay.
It's because he's taking a shit.
Yeah, you ever have like when you were a kid those bubble baths with the little rubber toys on top? Like Thomas the Train. That's what it looks like or feels like. You're like, oh man.
Man, we should do a podcast just for collector's editions, like really good ones and really bad ones, because like one I'm thinking of that's really crappy is the Max Payne 3 one with that stupid cheap like $2 like figure.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I remember like picking it up. I'm like, this is almost as light as a feather. Like this is the cheapest figure, like plastic piece of shit I've ever had.
It also looks kind of weird too. His stance. It kind of looks like he's doing the Michael Jackson lean forward thing, or I don't know. It looks weird.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks really. It looks like he's surfing on that like rock thing or whatever.
It's so cheap, man. Like I don't regret buying it because it is still Max Payne, but it's not worth it. I would say.
I was talking about the Kratos figure.
Yeah, The only thing is, I don't think that collector's edition was expensive though. It wasn't too much.
I think when I bought it, of course, it was like years after it had come out, and I think I paid $40 or $50 for it.
Yeah, well, that 2018 one is real nice, and Frank and I got lucky because we bought it on Amazon for 60
$60.
And I know you had like gift cards, so it was even cheaper for you. And but now, we were looking at it and like sealed, it was over 200.
Yeah, it was like, and it's funny too because there were so I think there was a deluxe edition for it.
Yes,
and then
which is a minor difference.
Yeah, no. There was the collectors, which is what we have. The Stonemason, which is the higher tier one. But I thought there was a deluxe for it too.
Oh, I don't know. I only know of the two that you mentioned: the collectors and the Stonemason. I haven't seen a deluxe one.
I'll have to look it up, but there's only a $10 difference for the resellers now. So the collector's edition that Bobby and I have was like $289, and then the Stonemason one was $299.
Yeah, and the only difference is they have like 4 additional wooden figures in there, which honestly I didn't think were worth the. No. I'm fine with what we got.
And when it was originally released, I think the collector's edition was $150, and then that Stonemason was $180.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. And I was like, that's a huge difference in price for just those extra figures. And I didn't get it. It wasn't until Bobby was like, hey, dude, God of War 2018, $60. And I was like, well, hell yeah, I'm going to get that $60.
And the statue for that one, because it's Kratos and Atreus, is actually pretty nice. It's not like the other ones where they look like garbage. Plus, it comes with like this cloth map, which was, as a matter of fact, I did an unboxing video of it in case you guys want to check out my YouTube channel, In Which She Lives, and just plugging that.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a really nice collector set. I am glad I got it.
Oh yeah, and the Blades of Chaos make an appearance in Twisted Metal Black.
What?
Do they really?
Like how?
Because whenever you beat the game, you always what's his name again? Goddamn.
You're talking about the
Calypso.
I was going to say the same thing, Frank.
Calypso, the tournament host. He's like the ending credits. There's always like mementos or trophies of people from like previous Twisted Metals, and in one of the trophy racks is the Blades of Chaos.
Is this the new Twisted Metal Black?
No.
The original, I guess.
Well,
is there a new one?
The new one's like 2016.
Yeah, and it was still called Twisted Metal Black, wasn't it?
It wasn't called Black. It was just called Twisted Metal. The newest one's just called Twisted Metal.
Okay.
Wait,
Because Twisted Metal Black came out before God of War, didn't it?
No, it was around the time of after the first God of War.
Twisted Metal Black?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's the Blades of Chaos are in it.
I'm looking. Okay,
I mean, I believe you that they're in there.
It could have been, yeah.
But I mean, it's the same. It's the same director, so I mean, he could have stuck him in there anyway, even because the original God of War was in
came out in
development for
June 18th, 2001.
Yeah, I'm like, that was way before.
Unless it is the new Twisted Metal, I'm getting the Twisted Metals mixed up.
You're the editor, Mike. You're gonna have to look it up and then add in the edit.
Yeah.
The PS3 one was just called Twisted Metal. It might have been that one.
Yeah, it might be. I might be mixing the black and that one up.
Here, let's just look up Twisted Metal, Blades of Chaos. And let's see which one it's in. Okay, so it says it's in. Okay.
Add a drum roll here, Mike.
Okay, so this is what it says. Calypso's trophy case. The trophy case of Calypso reveals all the secret items for the past and present Twisted Metal games, specifically Twisted Metal 1995, Twisted Metal 2, and Twisted Metal Black. Here are the items that Calypso keeps on display, and listed here is Kratos' blades from God of War series. So, I don't know if that means that it was in Twisted Metal Black and it was just like crazy foreshadowing.
Right?
Maybe. I mean,
but yeah, so it had to have been Twisted Metal Black because Twisted Metal and Twisted Metal 2 were PS1 games, and this picture looks like it's PS2.
Have to look up into that. More details.
Yeah, well, I know it's there.
Wait, then it says, and then
I believe you, Mike.
It says, kind of cool that Calypso has Kratos' Blades of Chaos in his trophy room and Twisted Metal PS3. So I don't know.
PS3? I don't know. We'll figure it out, and I'll find the image of it and just put it up.
Yeah, and that was the Twisted Metal on PS3 was from 2012. Which, side note, one thing I really liked about that Twisted Metal game, other than the gameplay, because I always think all the Twisted Metal games are boring as hell, is they had these story sequences that were done with a combination of live action people, but with like animated backgrounds and like effects. So like Sweet Tooth, which is the clown with his head on fire, like he's a real, it was a real actor, but he gets animated with stuff around it. And those story sequences are some of the best artwork like I've seen on a video game. Like you should definitely check out those cutscenes just to look at the artwork on it.
That looked cool.
Nice. I never
Unfortunately, they were in a Twisted Metal game.
Yeah.
Twisted Metal 2 is the best.
I can say that I'd rather play Vigilante 8.
Oof. That's a whole different podcast. Let's do that later.
No, that's all right. We don't need to have a Twisted Metal podcast.
Yeah, we don't.
Have a Vigilante 8 podcast.
All right, then I'll make you a 2-hour video of me ranting about it then.
Okay, we can run that. I'm cool with that.
Do you guys know what Frank said about Vigilante 8?
Wow. If you make that sound again, I will definitely watch it.
I'm like pound shake the desk and everything. I'll do all that.
What's up?
I said I'll pound shake the desk and everything.
I think you broke your camera. Oh, there you go again.
There, you're back.
All right, guys. Anything else anyone wants to add to the God of War epicness?
Play it.
Yeah, I'd say if anything, play all the games that you can, just because the stories they do all fit together because they are all canon. Canon being CANON, not CANNON, which is it's pronounced the same, but it does not mean the same thing.
And always bang the women if you can. You get experience.
Yes, you get experience and you get orbs for
That's-
upgrading your
That's
gear.
good advice for video games and for life.
In real life. Get experience.
If you're into banging women.
It's okay. Nowadays, they'll probably put anything. Kratos will be banging dudes in this next one.
Oh, our friend James does look kind of like Kratos. So if you could have a quick picture.
Oh, yeah, I'll put it up. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and you should post up your picture of when you dressed up as Kratos, Mike.
Oh, yeah, I'll put that up too.
That was a pretty good Halloween.
Yeah, that was badass.
That
man.
was awesome.
That one in the king costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not never again, dude. Frank was making fun of my nipples the whole night.
Dude.
Hey man, if you're gonna, you gotta take the bad and the good, man.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go out like that.
I had not ever seen your nipples, and I had no idea that they could be so dark.
My nipples look like mucus.
No, don't get that dark. They look more like dark chocolate raisinets.
It's too much.
I have those pictures saved. I'll post them all up, and then I'll get a picture of James.
All right. You might want to edit a little bit of this out.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
this is a. All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else, thank you all for being here to discuss God of War. It was a pleasure to take over hosting duties. Hope I didn't do too terribly.
No, you did a great job,
You
man.
did good,
Yeah,
Mike.
awesome, man.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
hosting.
Thank you for
Appreciate
stepping up, man.
Yep. And so, everyone, just play the games. They're amazing. And look forward to the next OCG podcast.
Cool. Later.
Night, everybody.
Later.
It occurs to me that I should not like Kratos as a person. His hubris is to blame for all the horrors that have befallen him. His desire for victory in war drove him into the guidance of a manipulator, while his unquenchable bloodthirst blinded him to the violence he visited upon his own family. But despite his faults, despite his godly birthright, his tortured quest and soul is a story worth seeing unfold. Of course, all the bloody mayhem the player gets to experience along the way only makes the ride that much more satisfying. So even though I would never want to be friends with Kratos, I would still love to hear his story just one more time. Well, that's it for this episode. Please join us next time as we cover Hideo Kojima's epic soap opera, Metal Gear.
This episode of Obsessive Compulsive Gamer Podcast was produced by Bobby, edited by Mike B, and hosted by Mike Prime. If you would like to know more about the music used in this episode, please check the links in the description. Thanks for watching and listening. Check out our website at OCGamer.org for more episodes and articles on gaming.